The definition of a man, when they're able to express themselves the way they want to, and to be able to be themselves.
I don't think there are any key factors to what makes you a man. I think it's just how you consider yourself to be. And I think things like being manly or a man are to each their own, and how you perceive.
A man who cannot really show their emotions and always has to strive to be better than where they are now.
They really try to drill it into you. You always have to be a man, or you have to man up, and it always comes from outside. Even though, like, if you want to just do your own thing, somebody else will always tell you you're less of a man than they are.
And it's not like how you behave to become a man.
When I'm having sex with a woman or drinking beer. I think that's many things, right?
Holding doors open for people, like stuff like that, which is very traditional. Being from Eastern Europe, this is something that is considered like common sense. I think now my definition of a man is changing to one where it's really like basic human values.
I don't know. I think that's a really difficult question to answer because you have the traditional definition of what masculine features and stuff are. And I'm not even sure that something such as a man and a woman are a thing.
So obviously, in the past, this definition was seen as being manly, and I don't believe I personally have a definition of what it means to be a man and what it doesn't.
Is a sort of restrictive label put onto people with certain bodies. And I don't think there is a definition of a man necessarily. I think over time it has always changed and formed, and it just shows us that it's just something that we made up.
Was really angry as a child to be born as a female.
Okay.
I really wanted to be a man. So to me, being born in a female body actually, I think, makes it easier for me to navigate these kinds of things, as opposed to being an Asian boy who is very feminine.
Okay, so welcome, guys. This is our first ever podcast, I think, called To Be a Man. Yeah. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
This is episode 2.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome back, guys. This is episode 3 of To Be a Man. Okay, welcome back to episode 4 of To Be a Man. All right. Welcome to the 5th episode of To Be a Man. I'm Jin. This is the 6th episode. Thank you guys for joining for the very last episode of this particular podcast. What I found really interesting was like how one of the people you interviewed was talking about how Asian men are more feminine, actually, and like how
seen
as more feminine.
True.
But also the entire culture back in Asia, at least in like Korea, Japan, and China, or Hong Kong, from where I'm from, like taking care of yourself, like your appearance and stuff, as like a young person is actually like very normal to do, and just regular. I've seen in Korea people just holding hands platonically, nothing wrong with that. Just being super close to each other, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So it's really funny how that kind of culture that is still like, oh, you're still a man. But when I see people doing it here, like I've seen or heard horror stories of people like getting harassed or just even like assaulted at worst, just because they're holding hands, for example, or just like showing a bit of affection, which is like really weird. That really shows like, oh yeah, what is being a man depends on where you live. That's
Absolutely.
That's like super true.
Culture background, big thing.
Doing either masculine or feminine seems so weird to me because we attribute most masculine traits with strength and most feminine traits with like softness and almost a sort of weakness. And I feel like that already has so much bias, like inherent to those terms. I don't know. I don't know if I'm making this point at all.
The people you've interviewed, they were also saying like that's something that we like labeled, right? Like, okay, this is masculine and this is feminine. It's something that we labeled, and I guess, of course, the traits are based on some like realities and how people react?
Sure. I mean, maybe the traits masculine are based on the fact that back in the hunter and gatherer days, men, because of their physical strength, were more of the fighters and more of the hunters. And
Yeah.
but we're not, fighting any fucking animal to get food on our table
Exactly.
today. So do we still need to label those traits as masculine?
Yeah.
It's just like with pink. Well, maybe the comparison isn't completely true, but I think it holds some truth of it. That pink used to be for boys and blue used to be for girls. That the definition of what's masculine or feminine, or even the need for masculine or feminine as terms in general to describe behavior, is just maybe a little outdated.
Yeah.
Because maybe these almost misogynistic ideas of talking about your feelings being more feminine and therefore more weak are actually in a way also more freeing for women to talk about their feelings, and then in essence also more freeing for men to come to women to talk about their feelings.
It creates
And
a
at the
safe
s-
space.
But at the same time, all that emotional labor falls on women. So it's like it's freeing for them, but at the same time they also often have to bear the responsibility of playing the therapist for their boyfriends or
Have
their
you
brothers.
heard this thing where your husband is your other kid? You know what I'm saying?
It
Like,
makes sense.
I've
a lot
heard
of-
this. Doing whatever he needs to do until you need to do it. That
Yeah.
was my
Yeah.
my
yeah,
vision.
exactly.
Until I need to do it, until I earn enough money, and then it's my turn. But that's also, I noticed in Asia, I'm not sure if it's in other countries as well, I think so. My family came from a like very poor state, or like a very poor environment, and Hong Kong wasn't really that rich as well, so a lot of people were moving out to get other jobs in other places. And so they were taught like, oh, make as much kids as you can, and then those kids can work, and then when they have enough money or are old enough, then you guys can like get them to school, because for them school was the only way for them to like, oh yeah, school equals money. That's what it basically was. And for me, it felt a lot of times it felt like an investment rather than like a son. It's like, oh yeah, just my mom was also in that state where as long as you go to school, get a good job, then you'll be able to provide, and then you can take care of us. And that I could not see that as love for some reason, because I grew up with like a two parts, right? I had like the Western view of, and also like the more modern view, and my parents, the household was very traditional. So at one point it's like, yeah, it's love to take care of your parents, but is it love if they have only raised me to
Take care of.
to be taken care of eventually? So it's like an endless cycle of survival and not getting a better future. And that was very
Contradictional.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Memes.
Ming, one of the people that talked,
What did...
they said that toxic femininity also exists in using preconceived notions about women, such as that they're weak or vulnerable or soft, to their advantage, so that they can get away with things more easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely, but that's the same as how would men use their power. You know what I mean? Like, because a man is normally, stronger. So as we said in other episodes, how they can get home later or shit like that. That would be how they would use their own power. So as women, being conceived as the good ones, or the innocent ones, or the ones that don't have strength to do certain things, you're gonna play that to your advantage 100%. I mean, if I'm gonna be raped and going home, I might as well take the advantages, not only the disadvantages to it. So absolutely, like, I'm gonna get my drink paid at the club. Yeah, I would take advantage of that. Why wouldn't I?
Is it that? Do you feel like it's a survival mechanism, or dealing with?
Certain. I don't think it's a survival. I think is, I would say, a smart way, because there is always advantages and disadvantages to any position. So if we talk stereotype-wise, the advantage of men is the strength. Interesting to see how it's seen as a weakness because it was placed as a woman thing in the past, as something only women were doing, and as a negative thing women were doing. And now that nowadays women are kind of healing from that, and we're all talking much more about the fact that, you know, feelings therapy, healing yourself in general, and just like mental health is a thing now. Men are starting to actually realize that talking about their feelings is something necessary, though I do feel like it's still seen as a weakness when it comes to the most toxic masculine traits, especially in, I don't know, maybe again quoting the high school at its peak, you know, kind of a teenager feeling of having to belong somewhere where they really need to be super masculine and super, you know, acting this type of way where feelings don't really have a space in their friend groups. So they have to seek for women for this type of things, and it's just very sad to see so many groups of friends of boys where they're only like, yeah, let's, I don't know, do stupid shit, but talking about feelings is not a thing, and they just feel very hungry.
I think the answer is sounds a lot like very idealistic, right? It's like, oh yeah, you just have to feel yourself and be comfortable, and it's easily done. You know, it's easily said. But you have like a lot of like societal pressures put on you, norms and values that kind of mess with that. I think that's way more interesting, and how that coincides with how we live in this society and how we express ourselves is way more interesting than the answer that we just gave. I think all the things we talked about before this are very interesting, and it's just like very valid, even though the answer, quote unquote, is simple.